Welcome to the last video of this section, Scraping Web Data. In the previous video, we learned how to read data from databases. In this video, we're going to take a look at browsing S&P 500 index, scraping and passing S&P 500 index, and using cell label and cell value. The most difficult step in scraping data from a website is that web data is published and structured in different formats. You have to fully understand how data is structured within the HTML tag before continuing. As HTML is a language that has similar syntax to XML, we can use the XML package to read and parse HTML pages. However, the XML package only provides the XPath method, which has two main shortcomings as follows. Inconsistent behavior in different browsers. It's hard to read and maintain. For these reasons, we recommend using CSS Selector over XPath when parsing HTML. The rvest package in R provides the ability to simply and efficiently harvest data from HTML pages. Let's get started. Our first step is to make sure that we can access our target web page via the internet. So, access this link to browse the S&P 500 index on the Bloomberg Business website. Once the page appears, we can begin installing and loading the rvest package. Next, we can use the HTML function from the rvest package to scrape and parse the HTML page of the link to the S&P 500 index at Bloomberg.com. Note that you also need to install XML package. Here we use the HTML function to read the source code of the page to spx_quote. We also need to install Magritte package so that we can use a pipelines operator to chain output parsed at each stage. Thus, we can first obtain the output source by calling spx_quote and then pipe the output to HTML nodes. Once we've confirmed that we can read the HTML page, we can start parsing the detail quote from the scraped HTML. However, we first need to inspect the CSS path of the detail quote. Use the browser's built-in web inspector to inspect the location of the detail quote. As you can see, the div class equals cell section holds all the information we need. Move the mouse cursor to the highlighted area and right-click on it. From the pop-up menu, copy CSS path. Alternatively, you can examine the source code and find that the selected element is structured in HTML code with the class of cell. As the HTML nodes function uses CSS Selector to parse elements, the function takes basic selectors with type, for example div, ID, for example #header, and class, for example .cell. As the elements to be extracted have the class of cell, you should place a period in front of cell. Extract elements with the class of cell with the HTML nodes function. Furthermore, we can parse the label of the detailed quote from elements with the class of cell label, extract text from scraped HTML, and eventually use the qsub function to clean spaces and new line characters from the extracted text. Likewise, we apply the same pipeline to extract the element of class value. As we've extracted both label and value from the detail quote, we can apply the label as the name to the extracted values. Now, similar to the process used to harvest the S&P 500 index, we can access the energy and oil market index page at Bloomberg.com. This is the link. We can then use the web inspector to inspect the location of the table element. Let's use the inspector. As we can see, the element is located in the class of data table. Finally, we can use the HTML table to extract the table element with the class of data table. Instead of using the web inspector built into each browser, one can consider using Selector Gadget to search for the CSS path. Selector Gadget is a very powerful and simple to use extension for Google Chrome, which enables the user to extract the CSS path of the target element with only a few clicks. To begin using Selector Gadget, access this link. Then click on the green button to install the plugin in Chrome. Since I've already installed, it's showing added to Chrome. Next, click the upper right icon to open Selector Gadget, and then select the area that needs to be scraped down. The selected area will be colored green, and the gadget will display the CSS path of the area and the number of elements matched to the path. Cool! Finally, you can paste the extracted CSS path to HTML nodes as an input argument to parse the data. So, in this video, we've learned scraping web data. That marks the end of this section. Amazing! In this section, we started off with downloading and reading and scanning files. We then moved to working with Excel files, reading data from databases. And finally, we saw scraping web data. That's awesome. In the next section, we'll take a look at data pre-processing and preparation.